April 24th. This is kind of the last new, although not completely new ideas of this unit. Tomorrow will be review, notebook check, and test is on Friday. So I've drawn two lines onto this graph, not including the x and y axis. There's two other lines. I would like you to put your heads together with your partner for a second and determine what the equation of the horizontal line is. So we've determined that all the points on that line have a y value equal to 3, so the equation of the line is y equals 3. Now we want to take a second and talk about the slope, because we have not talked about the slopes of these lines at all. Do you have a prediction about what you think the slope of this line will be? Peyton? 0. Peyton predicts 0. Anyone have other predictions? How many of you think Peyton's right? All right, let's find out. We can determine it because we know how to get slope. What is slope the ratio of? Slope is the ratio of? Sophia?
The change in y to the x.
Very good. The change in y to the change in x. So what we can do is we can pick any 2 points on our horizontal line and see what the change in y and the change in x is between those 2 points. Doesn't matter what 2 points, I'm going to just pick these 2. All right? What are the coordinates? What's the ordered pair of that first point I picked? Nathan? 1, 3. Good. 1, 3. What's the coordinates of the second point on the line that I picked? What are those coordinates? Angela? 3, 3. Keeping in mind that this is x, this is y. All right, so now let's go back over here. From one of those points to the other point, how much do you change in the y direction? Going from one point to the other point on my line, how much do you change in the y direction? Brian?
0.
0. There's 0 change in the y direction. You go from 3 to the coordinate of 3 to the coordinate of 3. There's no change in the y direction. What's the change in the x direction? How many units are between them in the x direction? Carolyn? 2. Change in x is 2. So the slope is 0 divided by 2, which is equal to what, Peyton?
0.
0, you were right. The slope of that horizontal line is 0. Matter of fact, the slope of any horizontal line is 0, because the same thing is going to happen. There won't be any change in the y direction, just in the x direction. So we can write horizontal lines slope equals 0. Alright, now I want you and your partner to think about the vertical line. Can you come up with the equation for the vertical line? What did you get for the equation of the vertical line, Angela?
X equals -5.
Good, x equals -5. All of the points on that vertical line have an x value of -5. What about the slope? What are your predictions about slope this time? Brian?
The numbers, it's going to be a number over 0. In this case, maybe 5.
Number over 0, and I wonder what that means. All right, Brian, that's a good prediction. Again, slope, if this was on the test, and I asked you what is slope the ratio of, you would respond with what? What's slope the ratio of? Healthy?
The change in y over the change in x.
Good. Ratio of the change in y to the change in x. So again, let's pick 2 points, any 2 random points on our line to figure out the change in y and the change in x. And it doesn't matter which ones. I'm going to pick this one and this one. What is the coordinates of this higher point? What's the ordered pair for that higher point up there? And you're sitting back there like you're bored. So why don't you tell me what the coordinates are for the higher point?
The higher point is it would be -5 and 4.
Good, -5, 4. What are the coordinates of the lower point? What are the coordinates of the lower point? Once you get there, Carolyn? Yep, -5. All right. So, going from, let's just talk going from the higher point to the lower point, but it doesn't matter. How much do we change in the y direction? How many units do we change in the y direction going from the high point to the low point? Jillian? 4 minus 1 is 3. How many units do we move in the x direction, going from the higher point to the lower point? We use the x direction. Peyton? 0. We don't move in the x direction at all. So Polanyi was right. It's something over 0. That brings up the question, though, what does that mean? Well, in math, we say when we divide by 0, that's an undefined operation. So if I ask you what the slope of a vertical line is, you say it's undefined. In math, you cannot divide by 0. The note off to the side, this is the first time you're hearing of this idea. You cannot divide by 0. Kind of like illegal. Matter of fact, if you divide by 0 on your calculator, 5 divided by 0, 1,000 divided by 0, anyone know what happens?
Syntax error.
Syntax error, or error, or E. Yeah, you can't do it. Why though, Mrs. Doble? Well, here's the basic idea. We have 16 kids in here, right? And I could say, all right, let's divide by 2. And we would split into 2 equal groups, right? I could say, let's divide by 4. And we could divide into 4 equal groups. I could say, let's divide by 5. And we would have to chop up a person or 2. But we could split into 5 groups. I could say, let's divide by 1. And that means we just leave this one group, right? But what about if I say, let's divide by 0? Kill them all! Right? Which is not possible. We can't take a group of things, a collection, and turn it into 0 groups. It's just not possible. And that's what dividing by 0 means, and that's why we can't do it. So, if I ask you the slope of a vertical line, you say it's undefined. Vertical lines, slope is undefined. Now this is just another one of those things you got to work to put into your brain. Here's one way that I suggest to students sometimes to try to help them keep straight that a horizontal line has a slope and it's 0 versus a vertical line doesn't, it's undefined, is I imagine that I am a road builder or somebody who travels on roads. This horizontal line is a road I could build. I could build a road like this. It would be easy to drive or bike along because it's flat. It has a slope of 0. But it exists, that makes sense. I could not build a road that looked like this vertical line. It's just not possible. Nor could I put myself on it on a bike or car and drive on it. Doesn't work, doesn't make sense, is not possible. So that's how I remember, I suggest you might want to remember the horizontal line does have a slope, it's 0. Vertical line, undefined. Okay? Questions? Okay. Let's move on then and tie a couple ideas together. I have given you some lines, but nothing else. So, we have learned a lot. And I suggest that you and your partner, if I label these lines, A, B, and C, I suggest that you and your partner could figure out what is the equation for line A. With me giving you nothing more than this picture. So I want you and your partner to talk and see if you can figure out together what might be the equation of the line just from looking at the picture.
So you have to put 2 points on a line.
And those can be any 2 points where it's cleanly crossing, right?
Right.
Okay?
And then you have them changing y over change in x. And the change in y, you're going up 2. So you're minimize 2. And you're going left 1. So the change in x is a negative 1.
Good.
So then our equation is y equals 2 over what's negative x. And then we need to find the y-intercept.
Good.
And that is 3, so it's plus 3.
Very good, Lauren. Do any of you have questions about that? Okay, Carolyn?
You can just say negative 2x.
Yep, I would simplify it one step further. We can simplify it to y equals negative 2x plus 3. Yep. Anyone else, Sophia?
How do you get 3?
That 3, that constant is what part of the graph? What do we know? It's y equals mx plus b. What is the b? The y-intercept. So look at the graph, and where does that line cross the y-axis? Right here, at y equals 3. Yep. So that's where that comes from. Does that help? Anyone else? All right, good job.